In a chilling escalation of his authoritarian playbook, Donald Trump's administration has sunk to a new low, threatening to deport immigrants who dare to mock or belittle the death of right-wing provocateur Charlie Kirk on social media. This isn't just a policy. It's a tantrum from a weak, confused, and corrupt leader desperate to control the narrative and silence dissent. The idea that someone could be ripped from their home, thrown into one of Trump's dystopian detention centers, or worse, all because they made a snarky comment about his favorite YouTube star, is not just un-American. It's the kind of petty, vindictive governance that exposes Trump's fragile ego and dysfunctional leadership for all to see. Welcome to the United States of 2025, where free speech is under siege, and Trump's obsession with loyalty is dragging the nation into a humiliating spiral of repression. Let's be clear. The Trump administration's latest edict, announced by Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau on September 11, 2025, is not about protecting anyone. It's about power. Landau's ex-post, dripping with sanctimonious outrage, declared that foreigners who glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country, and directed consular officials to take appropriate action against immigrants who praise, rationalize, or make light of Charlie Kirk's death. He even had the audacity to ask the public to snitch on immigrants by sharing their social media posts with the State Department, as if the federal government has nothing better to do than play feelings police for Trump's fallen ally. This is the kind of policy you'd expect from a tin pot dictator, not the leader of a supposed beacon of freedom. The hypocrisy is staggering. For years, Trump and his MAGA minions screamed about free speech, decrying cancel culture and woke censorship during the Biden administration. They clutched their pearls, whining that conservatives were being silenced, that comedy was under attack, that their sacred right to offend was being trampled. Yet here we are, barely months into Trump's second term, and the man who once championed making comedy legal again is threatening to deport people for what amounts to dark humor or dissent. This isn't about mourning Charlie Kirk. It's about Trump's pathological need to control the narrative, to punish anyone who doesn't bow to his cult of personality. It's weak, it's pathetic, and it's exactly the kind of corrupt overreach that defines his dysfunctional presidency. What's even more galling is the selective outrage. Charlie Kirk, let's not forget, was no saint. The 31-year-old Turning Point USA founder built his career on divisive, hateful rhetoric, peddling conspiracy theories, and targeting marginalized groups with glee. He pushed the racist Great Replacement theory, claimed black pilots might be unqualified due to affirmative action, and dismissed climate change as gibberish. His Professor Watch List hounded liberal academics, and his anti-immigrant tirades fueled xenophobia across the country. Yet Trump and his allies have the nerve to paint him as a martyr for truth and freedom, demanding universal grief while ignoring the pain Kirk's words inflicted on so many. The cognitive dissonance is enough to make your head spin. And now, Trump's administration wants to turn immigrants, already vulnerable, often scapegoated, into pawns in their culture war. The threat to deport those who mock Kirk's death is a grotesque overreach, a policy so absurd it could only come from a man whose ego is so fragile he can't handle a few mean tweets. Imagine the scene. Trump, hunched over his phone in Mar-a-Lago, rage-scrolling X, fuming because someone in a dorm room in Ohio dared to make a meme about his buddy Charlie. This is the leader of the free world? A man so thin-skinned he's ready to upend lives over a joke? It's not just weak, it's humiliating for a nation that once prided itself on liberty. The irony deepens when you consider the GOP's supposed love affair with free speech. Remember, when they spent 4 years howling about their First Amendment rights? When they raged against big tech censorship and demanded platforms like X be bastions of unfettered expression? Apparently, that was all a sham. Republican Representative Clay Higgins, a self-proclaimed free speech champion, has joined the fray, vowing to use his congressional influence to ban anyone who mocks Kirk's death from social media for life. He didn't stop there. Higgins went full authoritarian, suggesting that those who belittle Kirk's assassination should lose their business licenses, be blacklisted, and even have their driver's licenses revoked. Driver's licenses. For a tweet. This is the kind of unhinged overreach that exposes the GOP's free speech rhetoric as nothing more than a convenient prop to wield when it suits them. Higgins' rant is a masterclass in MAGA hypocrisy. He called Kirk a beautiful young man who armed himself only with a Bible, a microphone, and a constitution, as if Kirk's career wasn't built on demonizing immigrants, Muslims, and the LGBTQ+ community. The sanctification of Kirk as some sort of conservative saint is laughable, but it's also dangerous. It's a deliberate attempt to rewrite history, to whitewash Kirk's legacy of hate and division, and to use his death as a cudgel against anyone who dares speak out. Trump's allies aren't just grieving, they're weaponizing Kirk's death to silence dissent, and they're doing it with the kind of fervor that would make any authoritarian regime proud. Let's not kid ourselves. This isn't about protecting Americans from violence and hatred, as Landau claims. It's about protecting Trump's fragile ego and his cult of loyalists from criticism. The State Department's threat to deport immigrants over social media posts is a blatant violation of the First Amendment, a right that conservatives like Kirk himself claim to champion. Just this year, Kirk argued that people should be allowed to say outrageous things without fear of censorship. Yet now, his death is being used to justify the very censorship he decried. The irony is thicker than Trump's spray tan, and who's cheering this on? None other than Elon Musk, the self-styled free speech absolutist who owns X. Instead of defending the right to dark humor or dissent, Musk jumped on the bandwagon, calling the left the party of murder before the shooter's identity or motive was even known. This is the same Musk who once claimed he'd make X a haven for free expression, yet here he is, fanning the flames of division and amplifying Trump's narrative. It's a betrayal of everything he claimed to stand for, and it's a stark reminder that the MAGA movement's commitment to free speech only applies when it's their speech. The threat to deport immigrants over social media posts isn't just a rhetorical flourish. It's part of Trump's broader, dystopian deportation agenda. Since taking office, his administration has turned Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, into a weapon, targeting not just criminals, but anyone who dares to dissent. The Alexandria staging facility in Louisiana, a hub of Trump's deportation machine, is a chilling example. Immigrants like Amilcar Lisser Posadas and Badr Khan Suri have been detained there under horrific conditions, often without access to lawyers or clear explanations for their arrests. Suri, an Indian postdoctoral fellow at Georgetown, was targeted for criticizing Israel's war in Gaza, a policy that aligns with Trump's crackdown on pro-Palestinian speech. Now, Trump wants to expand this machine to punish immigrants for their words. The State Department's vague directive to undertake appropriate action leaves the door wide open for abuse. What constitutes making light of Kirk's death? A sarcastic tweet? A meme? A post expressing relief that Kirk's divisive rhetoric is no longer a threat? The lack of clarity is deliberate. It's designed to instill fear, to make immigrants self-censor out of terror that a single post could land them in a detention center. This is not governance. It's intimidation, plain and simple. And let's talk about those detention centers. The Alexandria facility, run by the private corrections giant Geo Group, is a windowless, overcrowded nightmare where immigrants are held in rolling lockdowns, often without basic rights. Geo Group, which donated $1 million to a Trump-supporting PAC in 2024, stands to profit handsomely from this deportation frenzy, with its CEO predicting an additional $400 million in annual revenue. This is corruption at its core, a private company profiting off human misery, fueled by Trump's vindictive policies. It's a humiliating stain on America's moral fabric, and it's all being done in the name of avenging Charlie Kirk's bruised legacy. The speed with which Trump and his allies pinned Kirk's death on the radical left is as predictable as it is reckless. Without a shred of evidence, before the shooter's identity or motive was even known, Trump was out there, blaming progressives and the media for creating a climate of hate. Figures like Representative Anna Paulina Luna and far-right influencers like Laura Loomer doubled down, accusing the left of inciting violence and demanding retribution. This isn't just political posturing. It's a dangerous attempt to scapegoat entire groups, from immigrants to Democrats to anyone who ever criticized Kirk, for a crime that remains unsolved. The narrative took a particularly absurd turn when initial reports claimed the shooter's bullets were inscribed with pro-transgender and Antifa statements. Those claims were quickly debunked, but not before the right had already weaponized them to paint marginalized communities as terrorists. This is classic Trump. Sow division, spread lies, and watch the chaos unfold. It's the same playbook he used after the 2024 attempt on his own life, blaming the left for every act of violence while ignoring his own role in stoking division. The man who once called for Second Amendment people to stop Hillary Clinton is now clutching his pearls over radical left political violence. The hypocrisy is as shameless as it is infuriating. And let's not forget the broader context. Kirk's death comes amid a wave of political violence that both parties have condemned, yet Trump's response is uniquely divisive. While Democrats and some Republicans called for unity and an end to gun violence, Trump used Kirk's death to fuel his culture war, painting his opponents as enemies of the state. This isn't leadership, it's opportunism. It's a weak man's attempt to rally his base by turning a tragedy into a political weapon. And it's a stark reminder that Trump's America is one where dissent is a crime, and loyalty to his inner circle is the only currency that matters. The implications of this policy are chilling. By threatening to deport immigrants over social media posts, Trump is not just attacking free speech. He's undermining the very principles that make America what it is. The First Amendment doesn't have a Trump's feelings clause. It doesn't say you can speak freely unless you offend the president's favorite YouTuber. Yet that's exactly what Trump and his allies are demanding. A loyalty test where immigrants, already living under the constant threat of deportation, must now tiptoe around the MAGA movement's sacred cows or risk losing everything. This is a humiliating moment for America. A president who can't handle a joke, who needs to deport people to feel powerful, is not a leader. He's a caricature. Trump's obsession with Charlie Kirk, a man who built his career on division and provocation, reveals a man so insecure he's willing to tear down the Constitution to protect his friend's legacy. It's corrupt, it's dysfunctional, and it's a stark reminder of what happens when a weak man wields unchecked power.